Well, what's up again there, guys? Brian here, the Three Topics Gamer, here to bring you another awesome worst to best list requested by all of you guys. And this time I will simply be going over the worst to best games that I played in 2019, because overall I think 2019 was actually a pretty progressive year. There are definitely some stinkers, some pretty average games, and some truly phenomenal games that I really enjoyed in 2019, and certainly a number of surprises. Now, before I begin, if you haven't already, or if you're new to the channel, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and press the subscribe button to help grow the channel. And I have to admit, make sure you press the subscribe button and have your notification bells rung, because for some reason YouTube did send me kind of a message that some dead accounts would be removed from my subscriber count, which is why it's been kind of going a little bit down. So I'm trying to get that up. Hopefully I can hit 47,000 before the end of the year. We still have the rest of the months to go, so heck, I'd really appreciate it. Now, before I get into my list, I would like to say that for this particular ranking from worst to best, I am just going to be focusing on the games I actually did play and review, which is about 11 games. There were a couple of other games that I did play this year, but they aren't going to be in the official list simply because either I didn't enjoy them, or I didn't want to review them, or I just kind of don't want to put them on the list for other reasons. So the honorable mentions, or the technically anonymous unworthy mentions for this list are Anthem, which I played, but I only played it for like maybe a day, but I just couldn't get myself to finish it because that game was like broken as hell. Thomas Clancy's The Division 2, I finished it, but it's been so long I hardly remember it. Borderlands 3. This game I know a lot of people really enjoyed, but I honestly was like I've never been a Borderlands fan at all. So I really was only able to push through it because I was playing with someone else. If that hadn't been the case, I never would have gotten through that. Heck, and I can say the same thing about Borderlands 2, so I don't think I really want to mention it. However, the last one is Ni no Kuni: Wrath of the White Witch Remastered, which I feel like trust me, that is one of my all-time favorite JRPGs of all time. Easily a top 5. I just don't think I need to put it in the official list, so because I've already done my review on it that I did on PlayStation 3, and I gave that such a, pretty much that game revitalized my love for JRPGs, since they've been dead for almost a decade, since I played a really great JRPG. So I don't really think I need to mention it in the official list. So with those 4 honorable mentions out of the way, let's jump right into the official ranking from worst to best. And without question, the worst game that I played that I reviewed was undoubtedly Wolfenstein. I've even forgotten what the subtitle was, but whatever the hell it was, you see it. This game did not feel like a full game. It felt like a throwaway game. It felt like just a game that they want to get out before the next-gen consoles were going to come out next year for sure. And I do believe that there is going to be a Wolfenstein game that's probably going to come out with, and I'd say maybe the first year or two of the next-gen systems, and this was more of a prototype game. The story was very uninteresting, the characters were unlikable, the boss fights were annoying, the entire structure of the game was a complete mess. I didn't mind the infrastructure and the open worldness that they had, but there's just not enough. It just felt like the type of game that felt like more of a DLC than an official game that could stand on its own. And I really just could not find myself to finish it, especially since your partner's AI was so stupid that it basically made the final boss virtually unplayable for me. And heck, because of how the save system worked, it put me in a position where I just could not win, and which is why I ended up not really finishing that game, and it undoubtedly was the worst game I reviewed for 2019. Moving up from that was Need for Speed Heat. Now, Need for Speed Heat is a solid racing game. However, it does have a broken function in terms of the whole police chase things, which I thought was just annoying. They removed a number of key gameplay features, which was absolutely shocking to me. And I think the story was just not all that impressive. I think it did try to go back to its Street Racer roots, which is, in my opinion, kind of the glory days of the Need for Speed franchise. But I just don't think there was enough for me to really consider it one of the all-time great Need for Speed games, especially since my all-time favorite Need for Speed game and overall racing game of all time just so happens to be a Need for Speed game. But I think this is perhaps one of the more average games that I played this year. I mean, when it's at its best, it's at its best, but I just could not quite push it to be considered a great racing game, which is why it's ranked 10 on my list. Going into number 9, I picked Call of Duty Modern Warfare. Now, I enjoyed this game. This was a truly fantastic Call of Duty game. I think that overall it did get the franchise back on track, and it is now in a really, really good spot. Its placement and story is a little bit off for me, even though I think its story was truly phenomenal. I mean, the game looked incredible. There were a number of key missions that I think are some of the best missions in Call of Duty history, including my all-new favorite Call of Duty game, Call of Duty video, level of all time, which is in this game. I think really the only reason it seems so low, like, trust me, there's only like one bad game. Everything else is actually a pretty good game, but there's just so many of the games that I played this year that I enjoyed more than Call of Duty, but it doesn't stop it from being a truly great Call of Duty game. And I think for me, really put the Call of Duty franchise in a really good position. And so whenever they do decide to release the follow-up, which I'm sure they're going to do, that is definitely going to be a first day buy for me. But I really did enjoy Call of Duty Modern Warfare. Next on the list is Kingdom Hearts 3. Kingdom Hearts 3 was a very, very addicting game, but I think the wait was way too long. I do not believe that the game that we got and the condition that it is in was worth the wait. I think just too much time had passed, and the story had no middle section. It just kind of felt like the game was building and building and building, and then before you know it, you're at the ending. And I'm like, what the heck? There's no middle section. I'm not really sure what's really going on here. However, on a positive note, I did happen to see the new trailer for the DLC, which I believe is called Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind, that had a lot of things that I think that this game seriously needed, including the return of Final Fantasy characters, giving us the ability to play as certain Keyblade Masters, which I wish that this game had had. If this game had had these DLC aspects added to the game when it first released, I certainly would have put it higher up on my list, and I certainly would have given it a much higher score. But I do think that Kingdom Hearts 3 is a solid game. I think, at least for me, it was fun. It was very, very addicting, but the story just didn't work for me. However, with that DLC coming out next year, I can guarantee you that I will be coming back to that game, which is what gives it its place on my list. Now, going up to the next ranking, which is ranked number 7, is Days Gone. Days Gone was a really great game. I personally really enjoyed it. I know that some people thought it was a little bit underwhelming, but I think the story that they were trying to tell was very, very, I don't want to say Last of Us type, but I do think that for a, I'm not sure if you can call it a zombie game, because I'm not sure if they're, the freakers are zombies, because they technically are just infected, infected humans. But I think that for the technical aspect of some of its gameplay mechanics, I thought were truly incredible. I think the open worldness and us having our own motorcycle that we customize, I thought was really, really fun. I think the character of Deacon makes for a fantastic protagonist, and despite its flaws, I really do hope this is the beginning of a new franchise. I do think that there is enough goodness with Days Gone to warrant a sequel. There's just so much world building and so much that they could build off and a follow-up. And I really do hope we do get a follow-up when the PlayStation 5 system does come out next year. So that's what gives it its place on this list. Going on to number 6 is Mortal Kombat 11. Again, Mortal Kombat is without question my favorite fighting game franchise of all time. Did I enjoy it as much as, say, like Mortal Kombat 9 or 10? Perhaps not, but I do think that the story was very well executed in terms of adding elements of time travel, which allowed you to have characters from different time periods interact with each other. I think when those moments are handled well, I think that is the game when it's at its strongest. However, I do think that Kronika is without question the most annoying final boss I've ever encountered, and for those of you that actually saw my stream of that, you could perfectly understand why. I just don't think that as time goes, it was really something I felt myself wanting to go back and play, but I still think it was indeed a great Mortal Kombat game, and I think that its ending story-wise is a little bit confusing because I'm not sure where they could go from there, but I do think that all of the additions in terms of all the extras, the exploration, especially the crypt section, were just spectacular. So I think that in terms of overall quality, I think Mortal Kombat 11, it was certainly a great fighting game. However, I'm not sure I would place it above its 2 prior installments in terms of keeping it really sharp and tight in terms of all of its content. But it is certainly a must-own title for anyone who is a Mortal Kombat fan. So now we are now entering the top 5. These are the top 5 best games that I played in 2019, and it is an exciting list. However, I think number 5 is going to surprise a number of you, and number 5 just so happens to be Death Stranding. Death Stranding, my most recent review. There's no question that this is a very, very well-made game. I think the story, once you get through it entirely, is very, very impactful. I just think that there is just too much of a grind in the first half. And despite the fact that Hideo Kojima warned us that there was going to be a grind, but that doesn't excuse it for having the grind. Even though I'm told what to expect, even though I knew what to expect going in, that doesn't stop it from kind of getting a little bit of annoying, and there being a little too many pauses. And I think some of the game mechanics just do not work with the overall type of combat that the game is trying to present. But again, this is without question the best looking game that has come out this year. I think that in terms of the Game Awards, which I'll be sure to talk about at the end of this video, it is warrant of a number of key awards that gives it a level of respectability. But I'm not sure I would say that this game is worthy of Game of the Year. And I hope it does not win Game of the Year. However, that could just be wishful thinking on my part. But heck, we'll talk more about that at the end of the video. But this is still a must-own title. I'm happy that Hideo Kojima was able to work on his Passage project. And if anything, I'm even more pumped up for what his next game could be. So that is what gives it its number 5 spot on this list. Number 4 on this list goes to Resident Evil 2 Remake. Now, I said this when I first played the game. I said it when I reviewed it. I said it 6 months ago, I'm saying it now, and I will continue to say it till the end of time. I absolutely despise the first third of this game. I hate it. It was a complete embodiment of everything I've ever hated about the first generation of Resident Evil games, which is why even to this day, I still hate those games. Those games are damn near unplayable. I cannot play them. However, once you got past the first third, once you walked out of that police station and got out of that parking garage, this game was off the chain. It was everything I wanted in a Resident Evil 2 remake. It was phenomenal. Just why that first third was so annoying, I have no idea. All I can do is pray that Resident Evil 3 does not make the same mistake, because trust me, they just got to copy that format in terms of the second and third sections, and heck, Resident Evil 3 could be perhaps my Game of the Year for next year. I'm really looking forward to get my hands on the Resident Evil 3 remake when it comes out, because I think in terms of structure, just from what I've been told and just from what I've seen from certain gameplay videos, it has a similar aspect in terms of the whole Mr. X thing and then having Nemesis chase you all around, but just in a much more wider setting. But going back to Resident Evil 2, this game was great. This is without question a top 5 Resident Evil game of all time, but there's a number of other games that I would certainly pick over it. But again, this did manage to do something incredible by taking a game that I openly hated and making it playable in the last 2/3 of the game. There were a couple of issues with the story in terms of continuity issues, but overall, Resident Evil 2 Remake did overall manage to pull off the impossible, and I'm very, very happy for that. But again, hated the first third. I don't care what anybody says. There's nothing anybody could say that ever could change my mind. I hated it that much that I almost wanted to quit. But I persevered, I pushed forward, and I ended up having a damn good time with both storylines, playing as Leon and Claire and a couple of extra characters. And when you add in all the extra free DLC that Capcom sent us, I think that absolutely made it a above and beyond better game than I think it had any right to be. But again, really enjoyed it, so which is why it will get the number 4 spot on this list. Going on to number 3 was a game I was very, very surprised about, and I'm actually surprised it's gotten as much attention at the Game Awards than it has, and that is Control. Now, again, Control was probably the most surprising game I've played this year, because just looking at it and I not knowing much about it, I was surprised. But yeah. And before I begin, my camera is going to die, so I'm going to pause the video real quick because I don't want to start this game all over again, and I will continue from talking about Control. So sit there tight and let me restart. Okay, now that I've replaced the battery, let's go back into my number 3 spot, which is indeed Control. As I said before, Control is without question the most surprising game that I played all year. Having a game that I didn't really know too much about, and coming from Remedy Studios, which, trust me, it's been a long time since I've actually had a chance to play one of their games, since a number of their games prior were Xbox exclusives, which really saddened me. Control was very, very fun. Definitely potential to become a new franchise. I think the use of powers, I think the map, and I think the overall visual aesthetics and the artistic direction was truly phenomenal, reminiscent of some of my all-time favorite films of all time. I thought that the use of certain soundtrack songs was surprising, because it actually incorporated songs from probably one of the most underrated bands that I've actually discovered over the past like 10, almost 15 years that I'm really a big fan of. And just the overall direction that they wanted to go. I mean, and the surprising fact is that not a lot of people were talking about this game as much as I have. I mean, I was openly praising this game. I loved Control and its storytelling and its gameplay mechanics. It was a very, very fun game visually and mechanically. It's just the type of game that I didn't hear many people talking about, and it kind of disappeared. So the fact that it's getting all this attention at the end is a little bit suspicious, but I really do hope it wins some major awards because I think it is warranted. Now, do I think that it's Game of the Year material? Probably not, but I certainly do think it's probably one of the most underrated games that's come out this year, and I think that people hopefully will get a chance to play it and hopefully and give it a little bit more respect than I think it has perceived up until this point. But again, really loved Control. I'm glad that I own it. In fact, I've actually been, believe it or not, I've actually been going back. Now that I'm done with Death Stranding, I'm actually going back and trying to complete it because I've enjoyed it so much. That's currently what I'm playing right now. But again, Control, really great game. Ranked number 3 on my list. Going into number 2, I have Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Without question, still debating in my head whether or not it's my favorite Star Wars game of all time. Still debating. But it is without question the best story-driven Star Wars game ever made. They knocked this sucker out of the park. This easily, story-wise, could have the potential to possibly be one of the best Star Wars films if it had been done in this fashion. I think Cal Kestis is probably one of the best protagonists we've had outside of the films. I thought that the mechanics made this game very, very challenging, even on the hardest difficulty, which I was able to play on like the second hardest because I was technically playing on hard difficulty. I didn't go total hard. Maybe I will in the second playthrough. But I think everything about this game pretty much symbolizes what we've been missing from Star Wars adventure games in some time. You don't feel too overpowering, and even when you start getting powers, it still feels like a challenge. As I stated in my review, it does feel very Dark Soulish, even though I've never actually played a Dark Souls game, and I'm not sure I will. But we need more games like this. We need more Star Wars games like this. This is what we need. This is what we need moving forward. Because with the movies being a complete dumpster fire, I think we need to rely on the games. And I think that the games can give us much more entertainment, much more quality than I think Disney's Star Wars ever could. So, again, second favorite game. In fact, I am pissed off that they don't change the rules for the Game Awards and don't allow this to be a nominees. I'm pissed off about that. That's how much I loved Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. So, that is ranked number 2. Which means that my number 1 and my personal choice that I would consider my game of the year, best game that I played in 2019 is Devil May Cry 5. Don't need to say anything more. You guys know how much I love that game. That is my new favorite Devil May Cry game of all time. It managed to eclipse Devil May Cry 3, and I loved every second of it, which is why it is the best game that I've played in 2019. So, with that out of the way, I'd like to thank all of you guys for watching. If you can, feel free to share your list in terms of games that you have played. Give me your ranking in the comments down below. And also, don't forget, give this video a thumbs up. And like always, thank you guys for watching. You're awesome, and I will see you next time.